To date, we've created SQL commands purely as text incorporating the data. As a general principle, we always seek to separate data from code. We want our PHP scripts and the SQL scripts contained in them to work independently of any data sets we might use. Here we're going to use a repetitive PHP structure to read a separate data file and construct the SQL programmatically. Recall for a minute how we used the SQL insert command to add companies into our Alpha CRM database. In fact, we saved this file as insertcompanies01.php. Quickly load it and notice the long SQL command that we needed to insert just 3 companies into our tCompany table in the Alpha CRM database. We'll use the same principle now to insert some people records into the tPerson table, except we're going to make the code more generic, making it easier to use again in other parts of our project. Close the Insert Companies file and open a new code pane and insert the snippet examplets SQL insert people vars. Copy the file name at the comment block header and save the file in the dbwip folder. Make sure you're in the dbwip folder. Save the file as insert tPerson data to see the syntax highlighting, and let's collapse some of the components so we can look at each part in turn. We'll collapse the comment block header and the connection component, and we'll look at the final component that tells us whether we've succeeded or failed in the SQL statement. But I've modified this a little so that it actually echoes the SQL statement itself to the browser before it tells us whether it succeeded or failed. This is always a good idea when you're still in debug mode or experimenting with the code. Having observed that, we'll collapse that bit too. And now we're really only interested in the parts of the code which set up the arrays and the SQL statement itself. In the arrays part, I've split it into 2 components. The first component is pretty standard. It's creating an array of field names. The second component, however, is creating an array of the actual data. Here we have 3 data rows ready to be inserted into the tPerson table. The first part will remain because that's not dependent on the data, but it's dependent on only the database structure. In the SQL statement, we have the insert statement comprising the field names part and then the field values part. And here we've constructed the SQL statement to insert the array values that we created earlier in setting up the array of data. Let's execute this script and check PHP MyAdmin to see that the rows have been inserted. We execute by going to the bookmarked dbwip folder, insert person data, click that, and you can see, as we expect, that the PHP script has echoed the actual insert SQL command and tells us it was successful. Let's see if it was successful by checking the tPerson table, and we will see that those 3 records, Jill Hennessy, Mary Hazlitt and Morris Sparrow, have been added to the tPerson table.